Hey ho everyone, and welcome to this in-depth review of Black and White Ubers Week 3. Today with me is Hack
Yeah. Hi.
and also me again, so the same cast as last time around.
Yeah, same cast, different games.
Yeah. I haven't actually watched any of these, so I'm definitely excited to see how they go.
Mm-hmm.
And starting with the one from LPZ versus, I think that's Evuelf.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So this is a sort of a standard matchup in black white, where one player brings what we call in the business called Magic Sun, which is a team style based around keeping stealth rocks off for Ho-Oh, which is absolutely broken if stealth rock isn't up, due to permanent sun, and generally the metagame can't really handle as strong of a moves yet. We got to more defensive answers later generations, so things are a little bit more frail in black and white. So, and here LPC is using a classic Magic Sun team. I would say that utilizes the Magic Bouncer Satu. I don't even know how to pronounce that, but it's quite it's an alternative to Espeon. I personally like Espeon more. The speed and attacking power can really, sort of weaken opposing stealth rockers a lot. Shatu has kind of a different niche in that it kind of stonewalls certain stealth rockers or even spikers like Tentacle and Ferrothorn. But it also loses pretty hard. Of course, Espeon kind of loses in the same vein too, but it sort of Dialga and stuff like that. So Espeon deals more damage to stealth rockers in general, so that's why it's usually preferred. But Ferrothorn can sort of, in certain matchups, really shine, and I think this is one of the matchups it can be pretty good, because obviously Evuelf runs a rain team with a Ferrothorn, so he probably has chances to stop it from ever getting anything going there. But if it's a stealth rocker, but we also see that Evuelf has a Tyranitar, which is like probably the stealth rocker. Though Tyranitar is like also has a weird matchup, I would say, into Magic Bouncers. Let's just keep it at it isn't as good as it seems. There are ways, due to Tyranitar's relative speed at disadvantage versus the tier, it sort of has a lot of trouble setting Stealth Rock if it's damaged enough. And the Magic Bouncer certainly can damage Tyranitar enough so that everything else pretty much picks it off. And then, of course, on LPC's team, we have the Darkrai. So it's a Darkrai Magic Bounce team, which has been around for probably 12 years now, this kind of team. And Darkrai's niche is to sort of sleep and taunt stealth rockers that you normally can't deal with really with Magic Bounce, such as Stealth Rock Arceus Ghost and Stealth Rock Focus Sash Excadrill. So those things Darkrai do really well. And of course, there is no Kyogre check on this team. It has normally Arceus normal, and then relies on a special defensive Groudon and some pivoting and being extremely offensive to sort of check Kyogre. But this is fine. This is a classic style. And then, of course, Evuelf's team much more balanced, with probably Spike's Ferrothorn trying to spike stack so that Kingdra can clean. It isn't too obvious if Evuelf has a Choice Scarfer on his team. It could be Kyogre, but it could also be that he just relies on Kingdra for speed control, so we'll see about that. And the Arceus, he has a lot of options for Arceus on these kind of teams. It could be, I'd say, the most common would be Arceus Steel or Fighting, as they synergize well with the other team, but also Electric could probably be used here. And he has a pretty straightforward game plan. If he can get up hazards, he can win this, but he also needs to formulate a game plan to do exactly that, and that's not very easy. So yeah, do you have any comments?
Yeah, so one thing that I very much noticed with this is that there is no Genesect on either side, which is not very common, I would say. since
No.
Genesect is such a strong Pokemon and it fits on basically every team. It's very good for speed control and does so much.
Yeah, Genesect is sort of like the unofficial number 4 or number 3 even in the tier. Best choice scarfer by far. Has so many good resists. Of course, newer players might not be familiar that Ghost and Dark are resisted by Steel in this generation, so even more resists for an already good typing. And you know, the Magic Sun teams with Ho, they can run Genesect, but they sort of then lose out on this kind of Darkrai niche I talked about with preventing Stealth Rocks, at least temporarily, from certain Stealth Rockers, which is kind of valuable. And Evuelf, I mean, there's probably room for Genesect on similar builds, but I think he elected to go for Kingdra, which is a quite nice choice in general in the metagame, I feel, if you can sort of patch up some of the weaknesses to, let's say, to Toxic Spikes, to Arceus Normal. And Kingdra has the interesting niche of being the same type as Palkia, which is interesting because it's then actually a switch into Specs Kyogre once to Watch Spout. And as you see from Evel's team, there is no real other way to deal with a full health Specs Kyogre. So he can leverage that somewhat in a defensive way if needed too. And of course, it's a good cleaner. So
Yeah. What I'm also wondering, Evolve's team seems a little counterintuitive, I would say. For one, there's the dynamic with the Tyranitar setting sand and having the Rain Sweeper in the team.
Yeah.
So does he plan on using letting the Tyranitar die as a suicide lead early into the game, or why exactly would you use Tyranitar in this sort of team instead of like something else that doesn't disrupt your strategy as much?
Yeah, so that's a good point. And I think immediately when I see Tyranitar on teams like this, I assume it's a suicide lead with Focus Sash. And that also leads me to believe that it could be very possible to keep Stealth Rocks up for LPC. He could probably just, get some damage off with Nightshade on it with Satu, and then everything else pretty much pressures it so badly because it's frail and not that fast, honestly. If Speed Crypt is screwed on to the appropriate benchmark, it should be fine, should be faster and kill it. So Ho-Oh is usually jolly, so Tyranitar can only reach 243 speed, so there's a convenient benchmark for all base 90s in this tier to hit above that. And so that's one thing, and then maybe, of course, there could be those crazy pursuit Tyranitar strategies that don't really work in practice. They're overambitious, but of course it could, in theory, support a Kyogre by removing a Lati, but yeah, that strategy is very overrated, has never worked over time, and is kind of like, I would say over-ambitious. So I would bet on a Sash or a lead Tyranitar in some fashion,
Also, what confuses me a little with the context of the team structures I know, at least, is that these bulky or balance type teams of Rain usually don't run a Swift Swim Pokemon. So
yeah, no, it's not the most common thing, but it can be done. They sort of act as your Scarfer anyway, and so yeah, we should probably maybe get into it now. I don't know if there are any. Let's see. All right.
Yeah.
So there is a Tyranitar lead and there's a Darkrai lead. Darkrai is usually used to immediately prevent Stealth Rocks, so LPC's plan is probably to sleep out the Sash Tyranitar. I don't know how much I like this plan. A lot of things could go wrong here, but maybe just going for a Satu lead and breaking the Focus Sash and then trying to overpower with pressure is one way, but he could absolutely go for something like this too.
What also lets me believe that this Darkrai maybe isn't Focus Sash, is that from the team structure, LPZ would have probably also guessed that it is a lead Tyranitar, and the Sandstorm does definitely break the Focus Sash, so would it have another item?
No, I don't think it goes that far. I think it is still Focus Sash, because even if he doesn't lead Tyranitar, if it's something like Kyogre lead, or maybe even Arceus Ghost lead, which could be the Stealth Rocker, Tyranitar doesn't necessarily have to use Stealth Rocks here. Or something weird like, okay, Arceus Ghost is probably out of the question with Giratina, but you know. So I don't think that was the plan. I think it's all about Stealth Rock prevention. So yeah. And we immediately did the uncommon Lumberry, which actually kind of ruins the entire game from the get, because obviously now, I mean, that's
takes
sort of what I talked about.
50%, yeah.
Yeah, Sash is broken from Darkrai. Even the Satu cannot wall Ferrothorn that well with Stealth Rocks up if it has Gyro Ball. So suddenly we are sort of, okay, very risky, of course, from Evuelf in a way, but at the same time, what do you go Satu on a Tyranitar when you sort of have led Darkrai, and of course, you know, yeah, it's very hard, and I think that's what I spoke about, why. What can go wrong, because like if you look at it, if you have a Rocky Helmet Satu, for example, and you expect a Sash Tyranitar, and I expect you to be faster than that Sash Tyranitar, and even if you are slower, it's probably going to run payback, so it's actually going to be okay for you. Then you can of course get that 100 HP damage on Tyranitar, which is about like a third or 30%, I would say, and then Rocky Helmet takes that down to like, you know, about 50%, 55%.
Yeah.
And then suddenly Tyranitar isn't getting Stealth Rocks up ever. It's killed by everything. So there are safer ways to go about the Magic Sun piloting. Yeah.
And Lumberry also isn't a common item on Tyranitar. I believe it's also specifically run for Darkrai.
Yeah. And to be fair to LPC, this team usually does not run Lumberry Tyranitar. So very good prep by Evuelf.
Yeah.
And as I say, I think this game sort of becomes then a transport mission. So we don't even have to probably pause a lot and explain a lot, because now that Stealth Rocks are up, it's sort of, okay, so there's a Thunder on the Darkrai, which is uncommon on this structure, but also kind of cool. Because the structure kind of likes to have these kind of anti-Kyogre moves, and Kyogre is usually a Sleep Talk rest variant, but can pressure that a little bit with Bad Dreams, so it's a pretty cool choice here, I think.
Yeah, to explain also why the Kyogre was switched into the Dark Void, not only to set up the rain probably, but also to, since it has Sleep Talk usually, it's likely a special defensive Kyogre with Sleep Talk, Scald, Rest, and Roar. So it can take the Dark Void pretty easily and stop LPZ from being able to put anything else to sleep because of Sleep Claws.
Yeah. And then that's correct. And then of course, you probably miss out on something by using Thunder. So, and here comes a double switch into Kingdra, and now it's already looking very hard to even have a chance here. But going for Dragon Pulse, I think, is a little bit risky, and actually very. I think it's too safe, honestly. I mean, if he had Surf, which I assume he have, because it's a Specs Kingdra, so usually runs double water, double dragon moves. So it's Draco, Hydro Pump, Dragon Pulse, and Surf. I mean, there's no point not going for Surf there. So, and he could have gotten Thunder Wave. So that's actually, of course, probably LPC didn't have Thunder Wave because he would have gone for it then. But yeah, I think that was a little bit of a too safe of a move, and could have been super costly.
Yeah, I believe if LPZ did hard switch into Giratina on a Surf, he'd have just been able to go into the Ferrothorn without any consequences other than a double switch, but by that time LPC would have taken a lot of damage from the rocks already.
Yeah, there is so much hazard pressure on, because Evuelf can switch around forever. He has no hazards to concern himself with, so no, it's completely safe, as you say.
Yeah. Now
He's
the
pro-
Ferrothorn is also able to set up the spikes for free later in the game.
Yeah, and now he just goes to win the weather war immediately, Evuelf. And now maybe the dragon posing seems a little bit more sensical, but so he see that the Grudem doesn't have leftovers, so he's very much planning now to sort of win the weather war, so that his Kingdra can be free. But probably we can see about what the Arceus is. But if I'm guessing, it's Steel, and then that one wants the Weather War 1 as well, to reduce fire moves like Sacred Fire, but also to generally to weaken Groudon.
Yeah, that hurts a lot, and with that, the Ho-Oh's already gone. Regenerator isn't able to heal up enough, so on the next switch in, it's KO'd by the rocks.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, a little bit of taunt on Darkrai is used on these teams in case you have spent Dark Void and want to, prevent stealth rocks, no matter what, on something like Exerial or Arceus Ghost. So it's standard to have taunt and Dark Void on this Darkrai. And here's the payback. And as I said, if you're expecting a Sash, if it was expecting that sort of Sash Tyranitar, then your Shadow might have been slower even, so payback wouldn't have done actually that much. So
that's an Earth Plate Groudon, right?
Right, let's see. What can you rewind to the damage? It did.
It did 43 to the Kyogre.
No, it's just special defense with Lumberry then.
Oh, alright, yeah.
That's far too little. Earthplate does about 60.
Yeah, I would have also thought that, but
Plus.
yeah. I think it would have also KO'd the Tyranitar immediately if it was Earthplate.
Yeah. It doesn't do more than 70% Tyranitar if you don't invest and don't, So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, so I mean, kind of a one-sided game here, really.
Yeah, but it was very, very strong decision making by Evuelf in the beginning of the game, keeping the thing on the pressure. So
yeah, definitely, but it was also very unsafe, I think. And here, I don't think Giratina Sneak actually kills at 15%, but I'm not sure. But okay, switched out, goes Shadow Force Raw.
Oh.
Doesn't even kill, but probably Ferrothorn and whatever. He has still that Arceus, probably very, very strong when into this team.
So you also don't see Mental Herb Shadow Force every day, I believe.
No, it's like a pretty, but it's nice tech. It does sacrifice a lot of power from your extreme speed though, but it gets by the Giratina. If you are facing opponents that like Giratina, which not everyone does. I think personally it's quite overrated, but certainly has his place. And he just, plays it ultra safe here above, gets in the Kingdra.
Also not revealing the Arceus form.
No, and I think if he can win without revealing the Arceus form, it's a team tournament with many weeks. He doesn't probably want to reveal it if he can help it,
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy. You should, of course, not win as easily as you don't even have to reveal your best Pokemon, but he actually does here. And I think LPC's game plan lacked a little bit of safety. Personally, I get that he hard predicts Sash Tyranitar, but even then, I think if you look at the line where you do a Nightshade on Tyranitar, you get some Rocky Helmet chip on Tyranitar, and then after that you send out Groudon, which you have put Tyranitar in KO range regardless of bulk really, and then you sort of have that free Earthquake. As your opponent is forced to switch out into the Giratina Odan to have an immunity, you can probably get Stealth Rock on that, or even go Ho-Oh, and then start really pressuring from there, and at least get some mileage out of your offensive threats before and you know, really try to get those stealth rocks up, because of course maybe you have to risk magic coat or something, but that would be unlikely. Magic coat Giratina, that is. But I think like a turn 3 plan of, you know, chipping the Tyranitar, earthquaking safely, and then getting stealth rocks on the Giratina with Groudon. It makes it really hard, you know, for Tyranitar to actually get in again. If you think about it, then it will be less than 50%, then everything is faster than it. So again, as I'm saying, Tyranitar is very weak as a stealth rocker in Black and White in general, and it's not as good versus Magic Sun as it seems.
Yeah.
See that Earthquake did 73 to Tyranitar, so even with only a Nightshade and no Rocky Helmet, you put that in range of an Earthquake. So even from uninvested Groudon. And you see this Giratina had Aqua Tail, so it probably never has Magic Coat, so you definitely can get off Stealth Rocks safely. So yeah, maybe a little bit rambly right now, but I think there could have been safer ways to go about this game plan.
Yeah, and maybe to also go over the choice of Kingdra a bit. I believe, because of what you said at the beginning, that it also serves as a one-time check to Kyogre. It is somewhat role compression, because I would assume Kabutops is usually better into most rain for most rain teams, since it has a move pool that it allows it to hit most Pokemon harder.
And of course, Kingdra is crucially faster than Kabutops also, so it's like a check to that.
Yeah.
Too. So that's kind of cool. But anyway, so maybe we go to the next game.
Yeah.
And here we have some black magic again. So Kebabe, who gimmicked last week, we might do that as a blooper at the end, but now runs his patented sort of good stuff team, which usually consists of a Rayquaza, Arceus, Ghost, and Genesect, and then a bunch of filler mons like Kyogre and Kabutops.
Yeah,
but he has an Amoonguss in the last slot, which you shouldn't guess into too much, but it serves clearly the purpose of absorbing toxic spikes, which can be very annoying for Kyogre and Kabutops, and he lost pretty badly to toxic spike last week, so that's something. And then of course Sleep is absolutely busted in Generation 5.
Yeah, and also Spore does hit grass types still in this generation.
Yeah, not only that, but if you switch out the Sleep in Pokemon, the Sleep counter is reset. So if you just force out a Pokemon when it's Sleep, it's pretty much never gonna wake up. So we'll see what Dovahneer has up his team. He has a Ferrothorn, could be Spiker, and then Darkrai does the Darkrai stuff, Scarf Genesect. Some kind of Kyogre we don't really know, and Latios does Latios stuff. And then an Arceus, which is probably Ghost, then judging from the team composition with the Spiker, as we stated many weeks. And he does seem to lack a Stealth Rocker that's viable also. Of course, Ferrothorn could technically run Stealth Rocks, but it should not. So yeah, probably an Arceus Ghost, Stealth Rock, and Kebabe, yeah, we'll see what they do here, because to me it seems like it's quite safe for both players to lead Genesect, really.
Yeah, so what I also see here is that Kebabe's team does look a little weak to Spec Kyogre, especially, at least if he can't get the upper hand with speed oftentimes, so doesn't really have any reliable switch-ins, meaning if Spec Kyogre comes in, he has to sacrifice something every time pretty much.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Yeah,
we will see. So great play by Dovahneer leading Arceus Ghost. He recognizes that there's nothing really that punishes Arceus Ghost that hard. If Kebabe leads Specs Kyogre is probably the best, but that's a risky play in itself from Kebabe. So he definitely great play. Kebabe a little bit too safe. I think you know, knowing these kind of teams, it's usually Sash, Thunder Wave, Rayquaza, and it can lead into anything really. And I think he might have thought this one a little bit, because Rayquaza would have been okay to lead here to just paralyze the Arceus Ghost and play from there. But now he gets immediately sort of behind, I would say.
Yeah.
But he also has an Among Us, so he will put that something to sleep now.
Yeah, so what I'm also wondering is, would you usually think that this Arceus on this team comp of Dova is a supportive type and not Calm Mind or Sword Stance?
Yeah, but because of course you have no real options rather than Stealth Rocks here. Stealth Rock on Ferrothorn would be exceptionally bad into like a Ho-Oh team, Magic Sun team, as we saw. LPC's team, for example, matched up into this Dovahneer team. If Dovahneer did not have Stealth Rock Arceus Ghost, would immediately win. Immediately. Because of how Shatu was a Stealth Rock Ferrothorn to all end, and then Ho gets all the turns it need. So definitely expecting that.
Yeah. Letting the Kyogre go to sleep, showing that it's
Yeah,
probably.
and it's usually a sleep talker, yeah.
Yeah.
But he also switches out here and Kebabe reveals some black magic with Swagger. So Swagger is usually a very movie all competitive players hate a lot, but I think in reasonable context it's honestly not that bad. Here it's just that, here he just uses it, I think, to just do something after he slapped something, because Among Us doesn't really have a lot of good moves, and it does have foul play, so it can boost attack on special attackers to damage them more. So just for Latios here, which is weak to foul play, so so he gets that swagger on.
I also believe that Confusion does have a higher chance of self-inflicting damage in this generation.
Yeah, it's 50-50 each time. Of course, eventually you snap out, but yeah.
Yeah.
So here's a tricky situation with Kebabe, who kind of has to risk something. Among Us does not eat Latios well, but at the same time, Latios, if it is foul play at +2 attack, I'm not sure if it would KO, but if he hits himself and then, yeah, maybe. So not sure, but so both in a little bit tricky situation. Who wants to play safe here? What will they do? I can't really predict. And Kebabe actually goes Arceus Ghost, which turns out to be great play because he just catches the Genesect, which it can wall, and then get up the Stealth Rocks on.
Yeah. Switching
Really
the Dakra in to keep these Focus Sash up.
Yeah,
No.
and then an extremely good play from Dovahneer,
it's
almost
Life Orb.
killing the Genesect with the Life Orb Thunder, so that's a great play.
And it's special.
Yeah, it's special with Bug Buzz, and now it's also dead, and forces a recover from Arceus Ghost, which forces in the Latios, and Kebabe is in a really bad spot, I would say, and goes for a crazy read to read out the Roost once, which is of course very risky, but predicting that Dova would predict the Genesect sacrifice probably, and then on the next Roost he doesn't even sacrifice Genesect, goes into Arceus Ghost, which actually gets killed, and then Focus Blasts and kills. So that sequence is like prime Kebabe.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, you just can't. You just can't. What you witness from the swag? From this. Yeah, exactly. From this turn, you watch a Spore come in. You think, oh, it's okay, that's good, and then kind of a bad spot with Among Us, and then for some reason he has plot armor and finds that like perfect switch to Arceus Ghost, catching the Genesect. I don't know how, and then gets up Stealth Rocks to sort of claw back into the game, and gets out predicted. So this is a crazy sequence in a game, I'm gonna say. And then it doesn't get parried, fortunately, and then forces out, recovers, and then, okay, that's a little bit of lucky crit, but doesn't really matter that much, I think. Of course, hacks will always happen in Pokemon games also. If it's that minuscule, you shouldn't really care about it, I think. And then, of course, he goes for an insane read here. And then, of course, he switches in the Arceus Ghost, which actually gets KO'd by Draco Meteor, I think, from this range. So it's a very risky play. And then he goes for the Focus Blast. To Dovahneer's defense, Focus Blast on support Arceus Ghost is not that common, but, and then gets that kill. And Dovahneer now panics a little bit, I think. I don't know, what has he got left? Can you pause a little bit?
Yeah.
So what did he have left? Did he have he had a Kyogre left, but it was sleeping, and then he had Genesect and Latios, and what else? Did he have Darkrai left?
No, the Darkrai.
Oh, it died to Focus Blast, yeah.
Yeah, that to the Focus Blast.
And what's left? Because I can't see the team. Did he have something Ferrothorn left?
Yes, he did have Ferrothorn left.
So maybe even if it has Focus Blast, maybe there is a path where you try to leech seed the Arceus Ghost and just try to, you can probably live a couple of, 2 Focus Blasts with leech seed and probably be very annoying towards it and get up spikes or something, because I think here he just pretty much risks. He gets in Genesect and there's no real plan, I think, here that goes well in long term, because what we see here is that, well, we can probably start the game.
Yeah.
We probably see that this Among Us is like gonna come in on anything really, and it's a Rocky Helmet Among Us, I believe, from what I know about the team. So it would have done damage to Genesect if it U-turn too, and then a good sort of switch there from Dovahneer to get in Latios. Kebabe goes to Rayquaza, so he kind of predicted. I would say he just probably predicted Ferrothorn. That's probably that.
Yeah.
So great play by Dovahneer. Seems like he predicted Ferrothorn, but of course gets the extreme speed on Latios, which is kind of big if you think about it, because now Latios is in Stealth Rock range, so can't switch in again. And suddenly, you see this Genesect that's died, and you think, oh, Latios and Darkrai, they're totally gonna wreck him now that he doesn't have a Genesect, but somehow now he killed Latios and the Darkrai, and the game suddenly seems winnable.
Yeah.
But of course he has to hit Focus Blasts and stuff maybe, so we'll see.
So I don't know how he would really get out of this situation here. How Dova would get out of this situation here. Since...
Well, make no mistake that Ferrothorn can sweep this team with a Leech Seed Protect. I mean, it's entirely possible that it just solos if you miss all the Focus Blasts. I mean, you don't even have to miss all of them, you just have to miss a few, and Ferrothorn can be almost impossible to take down. Of course, Kebabe has the Among Us, which kind of walls the Ferrothorn, so maybe Among Us can somehow 1v1 Ferrothorn with like confusing it and stuff. Anyway, he gets a lot of it, and here he gets a double switch. Gets a confusion, of course. That's a little bit lucky.
So unfortunate, yeah.
Unfortunate, but also sort of what happens from time to time. But yeah, definitely lucky, and has to go Kyogre into the Ferrothorn, which you don't want to do, or you don't want to be forced, but he's probably forced doing it, and then Kyogre reveals timid specs, and there's no leftovers on Dovahneer's Kyogre, so yeah.
I don't quite understand why Dova switched out here. Did he expect a double into a Mungus back? Other than that,
it's very difficult to see why he did this. I actually don't know. Only he can know that. Based on his set, maybe EVs, maybe doesn't have. I don't know.
Yeah. Does take a lot from the surf.
Yeah. And now, of course, Sleep Clause is not active, so he can sleep something more, and a Genesect comes in here and...
Does it KO the Among Us with 2? I don't think so.
No, Among Us just takes these like a champ.
Yeah, also doesn't have the...
And gets a Swagger off, instead of going for Spore, curiously, which I think is a misplay, but, also kind of... Yeah, why doesn't he go for Spore here? Very weird, but... the plan of going to Thunders maybe wasn't gonna cut it anyway. So here finally sacks the Genesect, and Kyogre is just outside of range for Judgment, I believe. So he gets in the Pharaoh, and now, we get to the situation where you said, why did he switch out Pharaoh? And we don't really know, because now he's forced to switch in the Pharaoh to Kyogre, which of course worse.
Oh, it doesn't have Power Whip.
It reveals to not have Power Whip, but it also, curiously, doesn't go for Leech Seed immediately. okay, but he doesn't have Protect then, I suppose. But now Kebabe goes out into Amoongus, realizing that he probably has to regenerate the Amoongus to take a judgment, which is exactly what he does, and then spores finally gets the spore on the right thing, and now to win, Dovahneer has to make a first turn wake with Arceus Ghost, and even then there's a speed tie situation between the both Arceus Ghosts as well.
Still steep, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the Swagger hitting the Genesect once was forced, let's say, did not force Kebabe to use his Arceus Ghost speed tie in the end. So it avoided him from going for speed ties with Arceus Ghost and Focus Blast a lot more. So Swagger proccing there was definitely key, but to eliminate some risks. But very interesting game, very high paced, back and forth. Hard to play, of course, versus teams that have these kind of strange mons, and very good plays with the Thunders. Quite weird switching out the Ferrothorn, I would say, of the Kyogre. That sort of felt not game losing, but there was probably some reason, but I don't know.
Yeah, so the Genesect from Kebabe was specs, I would assume, by Bugbuzz, but the Genesect of Dova probably was still just normal Choice Scarf, right?
Both for Choice Scarf. Kebabe's just ran a special boost.
Alright.
And then Dova probably, I haven't counted it, but maybe it was physical, maybe it was special Scarf. Could have probably been special Scarf on Dova's team. Generally, you only run special Scarf when you have good Darkrai checks. Arceus Ghost check.
Yeah, and especially...
And he has Darkrai, so should be fine.
I'm especially surprised by the Amoongus putting in so much work here. Was that just because of the matchup, or would it have also done well into like other team structures like Magic Sun or some generic offense?
So it seems very hard to prevent Spore, I would say. Amoongus probably runs a little bit of physical defense. Rocky Helmet, as we saw with Foul Play, so it's not exactly easy for Arceus normal to just sweep through it. And Rocky Helmet plus Regenerator is really annoying for Dragon Tail Pokemon like Giratina O, so there's also a matchup you can probably do something in. And of course you absorb the Toxic Spikes from Tentacruel. And you of course outspeed and spored Ferrothorn. So I think it has decent enough matchups, and it can leverage you getting in your hard hitters like Caltops and Kyogre and Rayquaza. So, but an insane game, I would say.
Yeah, definitely.
A lot of swings. Probably the best game of UPL in Black and White so far this game.
Definitely also the first sequence, I'm still a bit dazzled by that, but let's...
Yeah. Both players really well, I think.
Yeah, let's move on to the next game, to your game. Also seeing a lot of strange mons on your side. The Frostlass and the Salamence. Also Mewtwo isn't that common, I'd say. So immediately asking about the Frostlass, what does it really do? I would assume it's like a suicide lead with spikes.
Yeah, and it is, but I faced Frostlass last week, and truthfully I should have lost so badly because of the matchup, which is crazy, because Frostlass is really not a great suicide spiker in the way it was used before. I think it's it has a really big problem, and that is that it's slower than Darkrai, and Spiker slower than Darkrai. They're really hard to justify, because suddenly you need a Sleep Talker to lead it, so you can switch out, but then that sort of costs you from using another setup sweeper maybe, or another good set, so it's not really used. The Oxy Speed is just so much better in general. My idea was to use a new kind of Frostlass to overcome these shortcomings, so we will see that in the game.
And about the Salamence next, what's the idea there?
Yeah, well, obviously 3D can't know on team preview. The usual thing is to run a Choice Scarf Salamence with Moxie, right? So you just snowball and boost your attack. And Choice-Scarf Salamence is faster by 1 point to Choice-Scarf Genesect, which is, the most common, as we have said, the greatest Choice-Scarfer ever, almost. So it has that jump on the Genesect, which is really nice. So that's usually what you expect to see. But I found, I think when I built a little bit with Kebabe last week, we used Salamence. There was a Salamence in that game too, in that build, and a little bit different build. He had some ideas of using, like, I don't know, a little bit more of a bulky variant with Dragon Jam. But I think it's a good setup sweeper, because at +1 with Dragon Dance, you definitely get a lot out of it, because you're faster than Genesect. So that's sort of the idea here.
Yeah. And
3D is using a sort of standard spikes the Oxys speed lead team. Don't really love these teams. Not much to say. Groudon probably can set Stealth Rocks. You have an Arceus Ghost that protects your hazards. Choice-Scarf Genesect and the Specs Kyogre. It's very standard. You try to generate momentum with Genesect and get in Specs Kyogre and hit stuff. Or Latios. Yeah. Frostlass tricks the Deoxys, so that's already we see what I had intended. So as I said, the problem with Frostlass is that it's slower than Darkrai, but not when you have a Choice Scarf. And then you can freely trick the Darkrai. If they Dark Void you, they have a tricked Choice Scarf Darkrai that already used its Dark Void, which is great for you. My Frostlass even has special defense EVs to live a Dark Pulse from Darkrai about 60% of the time, so even if they do that, it's kind of good. So suddenly Frostlass makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I tried to then catch something with Thunderwave, because I'm Thunderwave Scarf, and he makes a great play for some reason and goes Groudon, which I wasn't expecting at all. Let's pause there, because I felt like when he goes Groudon and I Thunderwave, I'm actually really scared, because I feel like if he sets up Rock Polish and then maybe a Sword Stance, I can lose on the spot here. But I sort of have the hunch that he probably runs a Stealth Rock variant, because he switches it in early game, So I need the spikes up, so I decide, I probably have to risk it. Yeah. But this is what happens in tournament games sometimes. If this was a ladder game, I might have been swept, because there was a Rock Polish maybe 4 times out of 10, So very risky play for me. But I think it was a great play of him catching the Thunder Wave. I honestly don't know how he caught that. I was certainly expecting his Arceus or Genesect to come in. I don't know how he knew Scarf Frostlass would use a Thunder Wave. But maybe greedy from me also, to be fair. I could have gone for spikes. So immediately. Yeah. And now Mewtwo comes in, which is quite like a strong mon. I like the speed on it, but I don't like it defensively. I get some damage on the Oxy speed, which is nice, but I don't want to just kill it. I want to leverage this opportunity to set up my Salamence.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because it's tricked into spikes now. And if he taunted, he obviously makes no progress. So now I get big damage on the Groudon. Forcing him to Dragon Tail me out. And that sort of big damage happens to put him into, I'm using a Draco and Palkia, so it's obviously in range for that.
Yeah, also to point out, you're using a Dragon Dance set actually instead of Scarf, like you explained on the team preview.
Yeah.
So that's
and then there is this sort of always good to use sweepers, I feel like, when you're using this hyper offense. If you look at 3D's team, and nothing against him or anything, or his builders, but a lot of these teams look like this. They basically slap on a Suicide Spiker, some kind of Stealth Rocker, some kind of Spin Blocker, and then you realize you don't really have a lot of firepower that goes for sweeps. It's a lot of firepower in terms of wall breaking with Specs Kyogre, but I think it lacks something there, those kind of teams usually. And so I prefer setup sweepers on my offenses.
Yeah.
but that's just an opinion. And here he goes for Genesect U-turns, but I'm not Ladias, so we can talk about this actually. Why is it that why do you use Palkia over Latios and Latias? Latios and Latias have the sold you item. They're super bulky, super strong on the special side. But why? So Palkia is obviously slower as well. So why do you use it? Well, for this exact reason, really. Whenever Latios and Latias kills something, it invites in the number 3 mon in the tier, just to regain momentum and kill you. Whereas for Palkia, as you see here, I can just say, you know what, I can just play off my spikes, force you to take more hazard damage, and be general annoying. So yeah.
Dragon Tail, I was also not really expecting that one, but
Yeah, so this is to abuse the fact that, first of all, I've lowered my own special attack with Draco, so nothing can set up on me, and I can also leverage my hazards. Mr. Draco there doesn't really matter that much.
yeah, but you also get information about the speed, so now you know that it's likely specs or have it at least confirmed.
Yeah, I have it confirmed, but of course you kind of know it from preview with the Genesect. It's usually not dual Scarf.
Yeah.
And Mewtwo gets KOs after KOs, and no Life Orb on my Mewtwo means that it's not put in Genesect range. And here I have the opportunity to go to my Groudon. And my Groudon is a super bulky double dance Groudon, and it's guaranteed to do exactly what's happening on the screen right now, to set up 2 dances on an Arceus Ghost.
And with that, it should be over.
Yeah, and kill the Latios and kill the rest of the team. So got that opportunity. So again, powerful setup sweepers are great. And I probably had an Arceus normal to finish it off if Groudon couldn't. So
yeah.
So that's the power of having setup sweepers. But yeah, interesting game.
So were his specs on the Mewtwo?
No, it was actually Chilanberry. Chilanberry weakens normal moves. So
for E-Killer.
Yeah.
For the extreme speed, yeah.
Yeah, and then of course Safeguard on Mewtwo because it's so fast. And Safeguard is an amazing move. Prevents you from taking Toxic Spikes damage or Will-O-Wisps. And that's crucial because my Groudon and Arceus normal are Toxic Spike weaks. So Mewtwo is kind of used as a utility mon here. That is fast and has some utility moves and quite strong moves as well.
Yeah. So you also haven't revealed the Arceus form, but I would assume that it's likely to be a Ghost CS, because you of course want to keep the spikes up you set with your Frostlass.
Yeah, but at the same time Frostlass is also a Ghost type, so as long as I keep up the pressure, it's honestly quite fine of me to use Arceus normal here, which was my Arceus.
Alright.
Yeah.
I think there's not really anything to add about the team of 3D, so I'd say we can move on to the last game.
For sure.
Blim
This
versus
one I have.
Monai.
So I haven't watched this game, so looking very standardish.
Yeah.
Well, not standard. I don't know what should you call it. Blim uses a team that's probably 10 years old. I don't like it. It's forced into a weird structure where you have to use a Scarf Kyogre, rely on Focus Blast with your Arceus Ghost to check Arceus normal, and then you have a Mewtwo which doesn't really contribute to anything defensively, and just maybe wall breaks a little bit, but very weak to offense. So weak to Extreme Killer, I would say. It's in the long run, it doesn't handle that as good, or good at all, really. And but fortunately for him, his matchup is actually amazing. He lands the Mewtwo matchup into 2 bulky steel types, which Mewtwo can pressure a lot, even in rain. Excadrill and Skarmory, and then of course Monai doesn't have a Genesect, so it doesn't have that kind of counter threat. to regain momentum with. He also has a Palkia over Latios. Palkia takes Mewtwo's attack significantly worse, of course, than Latios. And then the Kyogre is probably also Scarf on Monai's team, which is maybe a relief, I would say, for Blim, because he doesn't really have a Kyogre, Specs Kyogre switch in. So, and of course, he has all the tools he needs to get off the game in a good way. So, yeah, we'll see about Monai's team. He has a very big Latios weakness if he doesn't use a special defensive leftovers Excadrill, so I assume it's gonna be a special defensive Excadrill for that reason. And then the Arceus is also very hard to call out because he obviously doesn't use Ghost here, as he has a Giratina. So the question is he like some kind of weird thing like Arceus normal on Rain? I don't know. Probably not. So I would say lean on Arceus fighting as an all-rounder on this team. But that sort of also creates a weakness to Latios. So maybe Arceus Dark, honestly, would make the most sense on Monai's team. Yeah. Which would also help with the Mewtwo, actually. So that would be neat.
So, what I'm wondering, why would you choose the Excadrill for rocks over maybe a Fortress, just for the earthquake damage?
Yeah, so for the Latios check, I would say.
Alright.
Because it's immune to Thunder.
Yeah.
Takes Hidden Power Fires, much better than Rain too. So, and can threaten the Latios back. Yeah, okay, so very, very strange, I would say. I don't know if I like this because it sort of tells me that you are not even you are completely okay with a Sash, the Oxy Speed, just getting Stealth Rock and Spikes, and I think that you have to respect the Oxy Speed a little bit more than that. So leading Palkia, yeah, it's something you generally don't see, so we'll see if he gets away with it. Because Blim ran a Focus Sash, the Oxy Speed back a couple of weeks ago, so, you know, he's definitely not shy of doing this, so I would expect almost to see Monai getting punished here, but we'll see.
Fling.
But it is Fling, so clearly doesn't have. And okay, that is very strange place from the get-go.
Leftovers Palkia is also strange side.
Yeah, but I'm gonna have to assume. Well, first off, I'm gonna assume that Blim's Deoxy Speed is at least EV to take a Hydro Pump from Lustrous Palkia. Otherwise, you can't really flinch, right? And then, of course, the Palkia, if it's leftovers, I don't know what he's doing really, because if that's, you know, this is sort of an older or sort of like a newer generation play, or not new, but you know, to Thunder Wave Deoxys and then go to your Defogger, right? So you're faster and can defog it over getting taunt, but there is no defog in this generation. And what Monai does now, that goes, it's really, you know, okay, kind of cool, you know, get it in, but it's not that hard to spin block in Excadrill, so
yeah.
Strange start to the game. And Blim doesn't even care about spin blocking because he knows that he just wants to get his big guns in, which is very experienced of him. And then he just kills the Giratina as well. So, you know, that you sort of see directly how that plan sort of failed. You know, even if the Deoxys Speed wasn't Sash in this occasion, he got very punished by just a very routine, experienced player in this gen. By trying to make it, maybe it's a little bit derogatory to call it a cute play, but that's kind of what it is. At the same time, it's sort of like you try to be a little bit cute about it. You try to, you know, have that sort of intricate chain of events happen. I'm just gonna do this. First, I'm gonna paralyze it because I'm not gonna care about taunt, and then I'm gonna go to my spinner, and then I'm gonna get my Stealth Rocks, and then, you know, and then I'm gonna stay in, and sort of those lines kind of forget that you're playing someone who's actually really smart as well. So, you know, it's like when you play on your Game Boy or whatever kids use these days, you know, Nintendo Switch. I'm old, so I played on my Game Boy. You know, you just, you know, you don't expect the AI to do anything smart, but you should expect a player of Blim's caliber to do something smart, and that's exactly what happened. That's why you can't do this kind of things. So I think very instructive, this kind of chain of events.
Yeah.
How you get punished by a player who, you can't just take it for granted that you will succeed with all of these plays. And maybe then you should have chosen a line that doesn't force you to make these kind of plays. Because I think these plays were forced from the minute you press Palkia as your lead.
So, did Monai switch into the Giratina as a sack? I would assume so, because...
No. He was predicting the V-Create probably to get the speed lowering effect and then killing it with maybe a Draco Meteor. So, in theory, he could have gotten away with everything here. But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Alright.
Yeah. But maybe it was sacking. But then again, do you really want to sack Giratina? Yeah, probably maybe, because this doesn't have Arceus normal. It's probably okay, but yeah.
Yeah, so the reason I thought you might be sacking Giratina is because it doesn't really do well into most of these mons, except maybe for a Shadow Sneak for Mewtwo later down the line. So it would have probably been the most dispensable team member at this point.
Right.
Dialga comes in. Now both players have double hazards up. Excadrill comes in. Now the Arceus can come in and block rather easily. Or it just gets roared out.
Yeah, it just roar, which is totally free, versus Skarmory, and then it kills Skarmory with the Thunder. Yeah, I mean, it's such a bad spot with his bulky steals against the Roaring Dialga. And now he can finally attempt the rapid spin block. Good Toxic, of course, and good that he has a defensive Excadrill. And here comes Arceus Dark, as we expected in the preview.
And the Fox Blast, yeah.
Fox Blast hit
to recover here, so...
extremely... I find this play kind of weird, I would say, because he has a Roaring Dialga. His Kyogre is also very healthy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kyogre is at what percent?
Kyogre hasn't been used yet, so it's still at 100.
And so I would definitely not have even tried to go for the speed tie, because chances are you lose the speed tie as you did, but also you can miss Fox Blast, and now you hit 2, and you're the lucky one, as BKC would say, for hitting 2 Fox Blasts. So
I would assume this was like a predict of a double switch for Excadrill to come in again. At least that's...
but then Kyogre covers everything.
Yeah.
Kyogre covers the recover, covers Excadrill, so yeah.
Still my best guess as to what happened here, because now it can't really check the Excadrill anymore, at least not,
No, it can't, but at the same time, he can keep roaring, which he will do here, I assume. Which is kind of to be expected. But Arceus Dark can't really do much to Dialga anyway. And this team has a lot of problems killing a roaring Dialga. And here he can roar again, probably for free.
Friend pulse.
Yeah. And now, of course, he can't really check the Excadrill, but he can still block the Rapid Spin one more time. And that's exactly what he does. And if he has Protect here, he could maybe go for it, but maybe he should have risked it also.
Does
get so far behind, he has to risk stuff like this. He should have probably upped his risk profile here a little bit. And
can now sack the Deoxys Speed, which has done its job, and get momentum back up with Rayquaza.
Yeah. And Rayquaza just kills the Palkia. And the Kyogre comes in.
Speed doesn't kill here, right?
No, it doesn't. And then, but still, also kind of strange play, I would say, to go Dialga. I think what is left is it Arceus Dark, Kyogre, and Excadrill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like he could have played it a little bit safer, because maybe just going for the extreme speed to get damage on the Kyogre, because he could have risked some kind of freeze hacks.
And I think that should be GG at this point. I mean, the Aura Sphere doesn't kill the Arceus, but...
No, yeah, exactly. It's probably GG. He can taunt, or, he can just probably attack.
Yeah.
Then clean that up with the Rayquaza. curiously revealing Scarf Rayquaza, Scarf Kyogre.
Yeah, I
With
believe
no
could have
real
just
need. Yeah, I could have just,
e-speeded twice.
of course, we all expected to be Choice Scarf Kyogre, but always good to keep your opponents in the dark as much as you can about everything in these tours.
Yeah.
Yeah, but very interesting and pretty dominant, I would say, in this game. Instructive to see how to approach. I think Blim's approach was also that this kind of Dialga.
I would say
Excuse me.
yeah. I would
Yeah,
say
this type of Dialga would have been good into what Monai brought last week, right? So.
yeah. I would say this week, all the games were pretty much won very dominantly. I mean
No, the Dova Kebabe game was very close, but the rest were dominant.
was close, but Kebabe definitely played the first sequence amazingly. Also,
Yeah, but to be fair, Dova I think equally amazing first sequence. So they both did very well.
Yeah, definitely.
It's underplay on the Gen 6, so I think it could definitely have gone both ways.
Yeah, and before we get to the blooper, we might take a look at week 4 and think about what kind of games we can expect. Evuelf versus Kebabe. I think that is going to be an interesting game for sure.
Highlight game. So Evuelf is too experienced to fall for weird tricks. So we'll see what Kebabe does about that. Yeah.
Maybe not a team with a odd Pokemon this time.
Probably, but we see what the Evuelf does about it. It's usually very solid against gimmicks.
Yeah, definitely excited to see that one. And then we have Xiaolong versus March Virus. Is March Virus the black and white player?
Yeah, he is. He is one of the best black and white players, and apparently their managers didn't dare to slot him in. No, I'm just kidding. But when I played their team, he played Ultra Sun Moon. I asked him if he wanted to play me, but his manager said their lineup would have been a weekend, so they didn't let him play me. But now suddenly it's supposedly okay to play him in black and white. He will probably go on and do really well here, but we'll see what Li Xiao can come up with.
Yeah, also excited to see that one, of course. Blim versus Dova.
Yeah, also kind of a good highlight game. I think Dova has good chances here. Blim has a lot of experience also, but both have. So even game will be interesting.
And lastly, there's going to be Yellow Armchair versus Shitrock Enjoyer. Are either of those black and white players?
Yeah, so I'm moving out to Auras, strengthen the lineup. But this Shitrock Enjoyer guy is...
I believe he's a GSC player.
You will see. This guy is... he is pretty good. But I don't know about Yellow Armchair, who really that is, so we'll see.
Yeah. And lastly, for little blooper, we have something you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, we can just spend 3 minutes on this because I don't want to go through the entire game, but Kebabe runs a really strange and dumb team, and that's sort of expected, right? You everyone talks about it, and you see. We can probably pause here, and we probably expect some kind of weird stuff, and it's probably quite risky and stuff like that. Obviously, uses Quillfish to absorb toxic spikes for his sweepers, has a Salmons. As I said, we've been building a lot together lately, and he had some kind of Salmons ideas that I took on for my game. His Salmons was a little bit different. But at the same time, I just want to highlight, and to be fair, I was a little bit harsh on Monai in the other game as well, so it's nothing personal. And I think he did really great to win this game. Spoiler alert. But also he's been doing really great over the past few years now in Black and White Ubers, which is really hard to learn. So all props to him. But I want to say that Stealth Rock Ferrothorn is a pet peeve of mine. Like, the problem is that you're so fishing in a matchup department. If you face a Shatu, you're honestly, it's just over. And even if you face an Espion Sun or something like that, the fact that Ferrothorn is so slow and so vulnerable to a lot of things on Sun teams will make it really hard for you to get up Stealth Rocks before the Ho-Oh starts to slaughter everything. So, just as an end note, don't use Stealth Rock Ferrothorn. And if you have ever seen me use Stealth Rock Ferrothorn, I was probably drunk.
Alright, and thank you for being here, and was fun as always to comment the black and white games. Maybe we will have we're going over the games next week as well. They do seem to be pretty interesting.
For sure.
Yeah. Other than that, we are probably going to do an in-depth review of a few Scarlet and Violet games this week. And with that, bye-bye.
Bye.